welcome to another Top 5 with Kris 05, guys. Today we're gonna check out what are the best decks in the game right now, so you guys can be hitting easy legend with some of these best decks. This is gonna help you know what deck to choose, and it's also gonna help you to know what decks you're facing, and I'm also gonna give you some tips about these decks, their mulligans, their win rates, so you have a better idea how to play with and against them. So if you're serious about Hearthstone, drop a like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to get time for some Hearthstone coaching. And you can be sure I'll do my best to make you a better Hearthstone player. Now, let's get into it.
You are not prepared!
Before we get into the best decks, I'd like to give a huge thank you to today's video sponsor, Marvel Strike Force. Marvel Strike Force is the ultimate squad-based RPG where you assemble legendary Marvel teams to take out iconic villains. And you can download it for free through my link in the description below or from my QR code. And you're gonna get your hands on plenty of characters. You get to battle both with your favorite superheroes, or you can even battle with your favorite supervillains. And your goal is to get your favorite characters as strong as you can through leveling them up, ranking them up, gearing them up, so you can complete missions and get yourself some epic loot, with which you can even compete against other players in the PvP arena or in other PvP modes such as the Alliance Wars. The game has all of your favorite heroes and villains from the multiverse, including Iron Man, Wolverine, Venom, and much more. And if you're a new player, you can unlock up to 17 new characters for free in your first 30 days, including the iconic Spider-Man, Thor, Captain America, and my favorite, Deadpool. New characters are constantly being released, and this month be on the lookout for the brand new Liberty team. This team consists of Peggy Carter, Falcon, Patriot, and Captain America. And you can use the code SAM to get your hands on Captain America Sam. You definitely don't want to miss out on these limited time characters release events during this month. So what are you waiting for? Download the game through my QR code or from the link in the description and get started on your legendary journey. The first deck in this top 5 is gonna be a little bit of a curveball, and do definitely take it with a grain of salt, because this deck has nowhere as near of a sample size as the regular Terran Shaman, but this deck indeed has 63% win rate right now for the last 3 days from Diamond to Legend, so it's definitely worth checking out. It's nothing too special, it's nothing we haven't seen mostly before, but it definitely looks to be quite promising, quite strong, and a lot of people would still believe you're probably a Terran Shaman for a while before they realize you're just straight up Battlecry. It's an interesting deck, and I kinda miss not having Ziliax in this one because we do indeed have a single Drone Deconstructor, but I guess the Drone Deconstructor can do some good things with your Missile Pod and stuff like that, and it's also not a bad thing to play on turn 1, so you can give it Trusty Companion and fish out your Missile Pod that way. We have some interesting Battlecry minions like Firefly, like Scarab Keychain. Murloc Grofin still as strong as ever, especially since these become 2/2s after you bump them up with the Turbulus. Pop-up books are super good. Scarab Keychain helps you curve out with another 2-drop, and it's also not a bad way for you to actually fish out your Backstage Bouncer. Just keep in mind that if you actually try to fish him out with the Pop-up book, play a Trusty Companion on one of the frogs, that could indeed give you a Scarab Keychain, and also when you're playing things like Party Animal, again, the buff from this guy could land on the Scarab instead of your Backstage, so it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. Thrall's Gift is strong as ever, mainly for Bloodlust, but Lightning Storm and sometimes Hex ain't too bad either. Couple of Cactus Cutters, pretty decent to cycle through the deck, and the bump up in stats ain't too bad if you manage to pull it off, but don't go out of your way to do so. Couple of Greedy Partners, decent Battlecry minions with extra coins for you, so you could be doing some things you're not supposed to earlier. The Missile Pod, a Battlecry minion, 1 damage AoE, we have seen how strong this thing is, so definitely worth the inclusion. It's the only Starship piece, but a very warranted one. Couple of Party Animals. Since you have so many tribes in the deck, you are going to be able to get a lot of stuff going this way. Trusty Companion, pretty great. You could actually fish out your Turbulus this way, like turn 1 Firefly, turn 2 Trusty gives you a turn 3 Turbulus. And now that I said it, I would much rather change this guy for a Glacial Shard, because Weapon Rogue is actually pretty strong and popular right now. So definitely don't sleep on the potential Glacial Shard here instead. Even though obviously the main idea behind this guy right now is indeed to fish out your Turbulus a little bit more consistently. Gorgon Zormu gives you a lot of good cheeses, and don't go holding on to the cheese much more than a 3-drop, 4-drop. It's usually even great as a 2-drops, around turn 5, so you can actually have a nice and wide board for a potential Bloodlust. Couple of Observer of Mysteries. From Diamond 5 to Legend, people do have a hard time playing around cards like this with some random secrets, so it can definitely catch a lot of people off guard. Turbulence buffing everything very nicely. As long as it's generated in your hand or on the board, everything with a Battle Cry will be getting the +1, so that's pretty nice. And also, you don't really need to be playing this guy on turn 3 for it to give you the full effect on turn 4, let's say. Like, a good example would be on turn 3, you could play a bunch of Battle Cry minions like Firefly, like Scarab Keychain, like Murloc Growthin, and on turn 4 you played a Turbulus, and all of them are gonna get their +1, so that can be kinda cool. We also have a couple of Turn the Tides. These are going to be nice little control tools for you, but also potentially big damage dealers with the help of Horn. They're also overload cards, so your Galganef is actually going to have something to draw if you come down to drawing 3 cards out of your deck. And obviously it would be a lot of damage with the help of the Horn. Backstage Bouncer, super strong card. As soon as turn 3 or turn 4, that is an obscene amount of stats, especially if you have Turbulus on, especially if you have Party Animal. It can basically be game breaking for most. And yeah, we have Galganef, amazing AoE, amazing card draw, and single target removal, and the discount it gives you on your first spell could be pretty awesome too. And lastly, we have a couple of Horns. You could be using these as control tools, but more often than not with this one, you are going to want to slap the face area. Matchup-wise, we do have decent amount of stats, and apparently you're going to be horrible against Terran Shaman, which is kind of weird given how popular this matchup is. Terran Warrior is also not going to be your friend, but everything else looks pretty good. As for the mulligan, here's what it looks like. Obviously, you're always going to want your Turbulus, good 1-drop, good Party Animal on 2. Gorgonzormu could be a keep, Greedy Partner could be a keep, Trusty is okay if you already have a good 1-drop, and depending on the matchup, Missile Pod might also be cool. As on the coin, again, plenty of the same stuff, so mulligan accordingly. Like I told you, this is currently the highest win rate deck for the last 3 days. Here we have it, 62.7 with 640 games. Anything above 500 games is respectable sample size in my book, and this one definitely fits the bill. But as you can see, so many different iterations of Terran Shaman follow it. So it's a no-brainer going with Terran Shaman if you're not feeling adventurous, but as you saw, Battlecry Shaman actually does have some decent potential to it as well. But you can definitely check out my Terran Shaman guide and see how you can pilot that one optimally too. Next up, we actually have Zerg Hunter, and this is not a Grunter Hunter, it's a hand buff Zerg Hunter without the Grunter package. And I did give you a video about this deck. It's actually doing surprisingly strong. I did show it into the last top 5 as well, so no reason to go too hard on this one. You can just check out my guide about it. There are slight changes in this one. For instance, no Rexar's Gift. Instead, we do have a second Star Shooter, which does prove to be quite a decent weapon, honestly. It's kind of okay. We also have a second copy of Char and a second copy of Titan Force Traps, and these are all things I was wondering why we don't have last time on the guide video, so yeah, the deck is definitely moving in the direction I was expecting it to. And it's super strong, like you could be doing some obscenely fast things with the help of your Zerglings, with the bird watching, with all of the cheap buffs, especially with Reserved Spot. You could have something as broken as turn 2 or turn 3, 5/5, 7/6s, that kind of deal. Definitely no stranger to that. And if that fails, you still have some long game potential with the help of Kerrigan. The Brood Mothers could give you some good stuff, and that way you could take it from there. Definitely check out the guide if you want to really know how to play this one. Now let's go over the matchups right now. Terran Shaman still on the negative, but the other popular matchups are going to be good for you. Mulligan wise, here's what we have so far. Going first, location is always going to be MVP. Bird watching is amazing. Reserved Spot is your best buff, honestly, because a lot of the times you are going to have a single minion in your hand, so this thing is going to make it into a +4/+4, so it basically allows you to drop a 0 mana 5/5 at the least if you got your spawning pool or your bird watching or your Zergling straight up. Just don't forget it has to be a single minion in your hand, because if you top deck another one randomly, that's going to mess up your discount, so it's going to be a turn 4 play kind of deal. Couple muscles nice, tracking's okay, Evolution Chamber could be a good turn 2 if you have a turn 1 Zergling, let's say, gives you instantly a turn 2 free 2s. The rest probably not so hot. And on the coin, again, plenty of the same stuff, but I'd say here Titan Force Traps makes a bit more sense. Evolution Chamber makes a little bit less sense. The rest is kind of similar though. For other good Hunter decks, we can also see things like Discover Hunter definitely rising in power, but this deck is not easy to play, so I'm assuming some pro managed to make some very nice wins with this one for a while. We can also see plenty of other iterations of Zerg Hunter. This is probably the one I showed you, I do believe. No, it's a little bit different. It does have Barrels of Monkey, which I do enjoy. Kind of weird this one doesn't, but I guess it makes some sense. Yeah, this is pretty close to the one I showed you, slight iteration, but still, Grunter Hunter is still pretty strong, and we saw that the core set will be removing Grunter Hunter, so play it while you still can. Secret Hunter is definitely doable from Diamond to Legend. The rest is just a bunch of iterations, and I also heard that Starship Hunter is doing okay, but we haven't seen plenty of that lately. On the number 3 spot, we have one of the cheapest and probably one of the easiest deck to pilot very well for quick wins. And this would be Weapon Rogue. This deck is basically free, it just has a few epics in there. And it really is not that hard to play, like it's really strong. I do have a guide about a very similar version of this. Obviously the meta is different, but the main gist of what you're supposed to be doing with the deck is kind of remaining the same. And yeah, this deck is super strong, you can curve out obscenely well with it. And the optimal thing you want to be seeing with this deck would be turn 1 dig for treasure, so you can find yourself your Swarvy, giving you as well a coin. Turn 2 you either play the quick pick, or worst case scenario just hero power and swing. And turn 3 you play the Swarvy, which is going to change your durability. It's not adding durability, it's changing. So the first turn 2 swing is basically for free for you, because this guy is going to get you the durability up to 3 anyway. After that, the main idea is for you to buff the weapon as high damage as possible, and that does not mean you want to play Sharp Shipment on turn 4. Sharp Shipment is more of a surprise, not so much surprise, but basically keeping the opponent at the edge of his seat. Will you have the extra durability, will you not? So you don't want to be playing this on turn 4. It would be much better for you to actually play a couple of Deadly Poison, maybe the +3 version of Harmonic, Deadly Poison plus Mic Drop, that kind of deal. Like, get the attack as high as possible, as quick as possible, and when you're down to your last durability, then play the Sharp Shipment, so that the opponent gets kind of surprised that you still have plenty of more durability to go. You do have some removal in this one as well, with a couple of defense. The Stick Cup definitely helps more often than not. We also have Tarslick in this variant. Valera's Gift can give you some nasty stuff. All 3 of these options could be good for you depending on the situation. A couple of Abysses for extra reach, a couple of Fan and Ice for dealing with those pesky Terran Shamans and such, and the rest is basically card draw. The deck is super strong, very quick, but it does have very polarizing matchups. For instance, Terran Warrior is gonna be horrible, Hero Power Druid ain't your friend, Zerg Hunter is also too quick, but things like Zerg Death Knight are gonna be insanely easy. 50-50 with Terran Shaman, which is decent, and you're gonna be pretty good against some of the other popular matchups too. Like I said, it would be amazing for you to have Dig for Treasure on turn 1, Quick Pick on turn 2, and if you don't have the Dig, you could also keep Swarvy straight up for turn 3. Gear Shift is a nice keep, the rest probably not so much, even though Prep usually does make some sense, but I do notice right now this deck actually does not run Dubious Purchases. That's actually kind of weird, because Dubious is such a great card draw tool for you, but I guess it is up for debate if it's worth in the deck or not, so keep that in mind. In that case, I'd say Prep becomes a little bit less keepable nowadays, because the main reason why we kept Prep was so you can actually get yourself the Dubious Purchase down to 2 mana. Even though it's not the worst thing in the world to do this for your Sharp Shipment, like I said, but you're not going to be doing this super fast, so it's not that big a deal. As for on the coin, again, it's literally exactly the same 3 cards. Sharp Shipment would be an okay keep if you have all the other MVPs already. Gear Shift's still pretty strong, the rest probably not so much. Here's all the different iterations of Weapon Rogue at the top. Plenty to choose from. Plenty of them do indeed have the Dubious Purchases, as you see, like most of them do. We can also see things like Protoss Rogue doing quite well lately. Quite a few different iterations of them, however, and the win rate for them is quite lower. Even though on Top Legend I do believe we were seeing plenty of those, but no, Weapon Rogue is still the obvious choice apparently. Here's a variant with a single Dubious Purchase, instead of a single Tarslick, so maybe this would be a more rounded out version for you to try. On the number 4 spot, Protoss Priest is actually doing a lot better than expected nowadays, and this is actually a version with Mothership. Like, I have been seeing plenty of versions of Protoss Priest against me lately. None of them really did anything to Da Vinci, if I gotta be completely honest. And they do look quite similar to this deck. This variant has a little bit of aggression in the early turns, but it also has the late game potential with the Mothership, and you could discount these bad boys with the help of these bad boys, the Sentries, because you could actually get yourself plenty of copies of this thing with the help of actually just a single copy of Power Chord Synchronize, and we're also not running the Forge card that actually gives you extra copies of this thing. What was that called? This thing, Creation Protocol. But yeah, as you can see, the other iterations of this variant are not as hot. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting deck. I haven't really looked into it too much. Maybe I'm gonna try it today live on stream. You might want to drop by and check it out. And I'll see what's up with this one. Until then, let's see what the matchups are looking like. Zerg Death Knight and Terran Warrior are gonna be good. Maybe we can see some bigger sample size like this one. Decent win rate still. Here we can see Protoss Rogue's not gonna be your friend. Everything else pretty green though, so that's kind of cool. As for the mulligan, let's see what it looks like. Going first and second, I'm assuming you are gonna want one of your good one-drops. The Sentry and the Gold Banner make a lot of sense. The Fishing Trusty Rod is gonna be amazing. Bird Watching is decent. Photon Cannon I wouldn't hold on to too early if I gotta be honest. It's something you'd rather do a little bit later. Orbital Halo, however, especially if it's in the middle of your hand, would be MVP, and Chrono Boost if you're curving into it could be a good keep as well. On the coin, however, we should not be seeing too much differences. Still, you want your good ones, your twos, your weapon, your chrono, the rest not so much. Bird Watching is actually a lot less keepable here apparently, so there might be a reason to that. For other priests, this is the variant I'm showing you, again above 500 wins, so decent sample size, but we can see plenty of other iterations of this deck. Here's a lot more popular variant I showed you for the matchups with Narain, for reasons unknown to me. We can also see different iterations of Zarimi, of Pain Priest, Coal Priest. So you have options, but apparently Protoss Priest would be the way to go right now. And on the last spot, we still have Zerg Death Knight doing as strong as ever. And this is a variant with a single Viper in here, which is kind of weird, honestly, because Viper is definitely feeling like one of the strongest cards in the deck right now. We do have two Yelling Elders, however, which also makes a decent amount of sense given how strong the Infestor buffs could be. And this is the blue variant, which I have shown guides about, gameplay videos about, so no need to go too deep on this one. You basically want to be curving out nicely with turn 1 Spawning Pool or Miracle Salesman. Turn 2 Tempo Brittlebone could be amazing. Dreadhound Handler could be okay, Harbinger could be okay. Turn 3 Brute Queen ain't the worst. Some card draw with Show Fallen is also pretty decent. Nidus Worm. Turn 4 is where you are looking to actually try and pull off the buff stuff with the help of your Infestor, with the Devgrel, and you could even do this on turn 3 with the help of Horn of Winter. But it does require quite a lot of good cards for you that early, so not very likely that's going to be happening. The Yelling Elder helps you buff everything up nice and quick. Kerrigan, a very nice second game plan if the first wave of aggression did not get the job done, and if the game goes long enough, Reska is also in there to take it from there. Matchup wise, here's what we have. Not that much stats here, but everything is green, so it has that going for it. Let's see another variant with a lot more sample size. This one, for instance, it has one more Viper instead of one more Dreadhound Handler, and here we can see some of the druids are not going to be great. Elemental Mage, Weapon Rogue absolutely wrecks you, as I said, but everything else decent, except for the Hunters. You're not going to be liking the Hunters. Mulligan wise, we can see going first, you want your location, your Infestor, your Salesman, Brittlebone is great. Some of the 2 drops can also make sense. Curving into Nidus Worm or Brute Queen or Showfallen Baron could be okay, the rest probably not so much. And on the coin, plenty of the same stuff, but here I'd say Horn of the Winter becomes a bit more keepable as well. And maybe even the Dev Growl if you have the curve for it. For other good Death Knights, plenty of variations of Zerg Death Knight, all with the double blue, 1 green, but I have been seeing some rainbow variants with Airlock Breach, which have been definitely problematic for things like Weapon Rogue and Terran Shaman, which are also doing okay, but as you see, the blue one is definitely superior so far at least. That's it for the top 5 decks. Now let's move down to all of the other classes we haven't mentioned and see if they have some good working archetypes. Starting off with Demon Hunter, we can see it has definitely seen better days. The Zerg Demon Hunter is probably your best bet with the aggressive early game stuff, but just barely above 50, so definitely not that great. With Druid, we have plenty of different iterations of Hero Power Druid, of Dungar Druid, of Taunt Druid even. So you do have options, they're just not as good as they used to be though. Mages are still relying mainly on Elemental Mage for the big win rates. Protoss Mage is playable, but nothing to write home about really, and that's about it for the Mage class. With Pallies, I actually did see a Tourist Starship Valley doing okay, even in top legend. I tried it, I got my ass handed to me and I dropped it, and yeah, it's kinda mediocre, 54% win rate. Cambuff Valley has never been this bad. Terran Paladin is even worse, and Libram Palady, don't even get me started. For Warlock, the Zerg Location Warlock is still super strong and it barely didn't make it into this top 5. I do have a video about this iteration of it doing pretty well. Several other versions of Zerg Location Warlock too, but nothing much different than this archetype, so those would be your options. And last but not least, we have Terran Warrior doing super strong for the class, basically farming up all of those weapon rogues, all of those shamans. You should be having quite a good time if you're facing plenty of those, but it's nothing but Terran Warriors basically. Just 1-2 card differences out of all of these iterations. It's very popular, very strong, bit slower, but still, a slow win is better than a fast loss, I've heard. So that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Hope this helps you figure out what deck you want to be taking to Easy Legend this season. Don't forget to download Marvel Strike Force from my download link in the description or the pinned comment or from the QR code. Thanks for watching, I'm Kris05 and I'll see you in my next video or stream.